evening. With Will County Planning and Zoning Commission meeting of May 7th, 2019 will now start. Madam Secretary, call the order.
Pledge.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, well, it's pledge after call to order. I got it, yeah. All rise for the pledge of allegiance to the flag, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Secretary, will you call the roll, please?
Mike Carruthers, Joliet Township. Thomas White, Troy Township.
Here.
Barbara Peterson, Washington Township is here. John Kiefner, Manhattan Township.
Here.
Kim Mitchell, Shanahan Township. Here. Roger Bettenhausen, Green Garden Township.
Here.
Chairman Hugh Stippen, Frankfurt Township.
Here. We have two sets of minutes to approve.
Motion to approve April 4th.
Thank you.
Keeper, second.
Motion and a second. Is there any changes? Any omissions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Motion to approve April 16th.
Keeper will second.
I have a motion and a second. Are there any changes or additions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. At this time, everyone who's going to speak, I presume, has signed in. If you haven't, please sign in before you come up to the podium. And I ask everyone to turn down your telephones or put them in airplane mode, please. And I will swear you all in mass. Just say I do when you're done. I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God.
I do.
I do. Thank you. We are, due to a necessity, going to change the report and the meeting so that we have our first meeting, our first report will be one was listed as last, so I'm asking for a motion to change the agenda.
So moved.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Yes, please.
Mr. Chairman, variance cases will be heard to a conclusion by this commission. Remaining cases will advance to the Land Use Development Committee, this county boardroom, 10:30 a.m., Tuesday, May 14th. Applicants and agents, well, never mind, you've already all checked in. I can cross that paragraph out. Okay, that's all.
Our first case will be case number TUP-19-09-001. Janine Farrell prepared it, and Janine Farrell is presenting. Thank you, Janine. She needs her mic.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Temporary use permit, TUP-19-001, takes place in Troy Township on 3 separate parcels. This is for the Vintage Fair, which the commission should be familiar with. And for our new commissioners, this is the 5th year that this temporary use permit has come before the commission. There have been no known issues, complaints, violations, or anything of that nature associated with this request. The applicant is requesting to have an outdoor seasonal market. I have the parcel up on your screen here outlined in red. As I mentioned, it's 3 separate parcels over in Troy Township. And this is a mock-up of what the applicant is proposing to do, the different areas, the parking area, the entrance, the exit, the vendor areas, and of course sanitary facilities. For this year, the applicant intends to run the Vintage Fair from May 26th and end on October 27th from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. on those days. So it is the last Sunday of each month, starting in May and ending in October. There will be about 30 to 50 vendors at each Vintage Fair event, and each vendor will set up just a pop-up canopy tent for their own individual table and area. The applicant intends there to be about 300 to 500 attendees for each event. And this remains unchanged, the setup from years past. These are some images of the physical characteristics of the property, the vendor area, the entrances, the exits, the parking area. Staff is recommending approval of the temporary use permit with 10 conditions. These conditions are the same or similar to what have been imposed upon the temporary use permit in the past. I can answer any questions that you might have about those conditions or the temporary use request itself.
Anyone have any questions of the staff? Thank you very much. Is the applicant here or agent? Wait 1 second. Is there anyone who is an objector or a concerned citizen about this case? There are no objectors or concerned citizens about this case. You do not have to come up unless you want to.
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, with regard to case number TUP-19-001, I'll make a motion for approval of a temporary use permit for seasonal outdoor sales and connected goods, antiques, and food with the 10 listed conditions.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign? The next case will be ZC-19-007, and it has a companion case, ZC-19-008. Jessica Galpatardi and Jessica Gallo is going to present.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So these two zoning cases will be presented together because they are companion cases. So both ZC 19-007 and ZC 19-008 take place in Joliet Township. Each parcel is about 5 acres and they're located along New Lenox Road in Joliet, Illinois. The property is owned by 2 LLCs, MGZ New Lenox Road Properties LLC with Michael G. Zambone having 100% ownership, and SAC New Lenox Road Properties LLC with Stephen A. Katkin having 100% ownership, each LLC having a 1/2 undivided interest. And they're represented by Richard Kavanaugh. The owners are requesting a map amendment to the I-2 zoning district in order to develop the properties for industrial uses. So on the aerial here, I actually have a connected solar aerial, so it gives you a better idea of, or a better view of the two properties. So this was probably taken in early 2018. The subject parcel to the east is actually already developed and is in the process of kind of finishing up that development. So these two properties, as you can see, are agricultural parcels. They are currently being farmed and obviously farmed jointly. And then that farming will cease once, if the map amendment is approved and development does ensue. So the first image here is looking north along the parcel that's the subject of ZC 19-007. And the second image is looking north approximately from New Lenox Road at the parcel that's the subject of ZC 19-008. Again, they're adjacent to one another. And here's just a couple of pictures. So the first one is an image of the industrial property to the east of ZC 19-007. And as you can see in the aerial, you don't see that industrial building, you don't see the parking lot. And that property is the subject of another zoning case this evening, which is ZC 19-016. The second image, so I'm just trying to give you an idea of some of the surrounding land uses, is to the south of ZC 19008. There is a residence. So that subject property is zoned R1. There's agricultural land, so a portion of it is being farmed, and there is that residence as well that you're able to view from the property. And here's an image looking east along New Lenox Road, another one looking west. So we're actually on the south side of New Lenox Road, looking across the street. And then now I have a zoning map. The zoning in the immediate vicinity is rather mixed. So as you can see, to the east is I-2 zoning, the subject of a former zoning case. So that map amendment was approved by this commission in early 2018. There's R1 to the south, and as I mentioned, that is a residential property and is also being farmed. And then to the west of the subject parcel is A1. Further down the street is some commercial development. And not just zoning, they are developed for commercial purposes, and there is some industrial as well. If you look, to the corner of this zoning map, there is I-1 within the city of Joliet. So we have seen a pretty significant industrial development along Cherry Hill Road, which has contributed to the trend of development on this street in terms of the industrial development. So the industrial and commercial development is relatively established, with the exception of obviously a few agricultural parcels and residential parcels. And it will likely expand due to the proximity to Interstate 80, which you can see to the north. Along Briggs, there is an interchange to Interstate 80, and then there is a significant amount of truck traffic going north and south along Cherry Hill Road. At this time, the property is undeveloped agricultural land, each of them, so they are being farmed. And it's been farmed jointly with the adjacent property, so it's suitable for farming. There was a LISA score that was calculated by the Will South Cook Soil and Rock Water Conservation District of 141. So it doesn't place either of the subject parcels in the essential farmland category, and they're actually placed in an area of potential growth or having the ability to incorporate into a municipality. And so with Joliet being within close proximity, that is a potential for the future. So on the screen here, I have the City of Joliet Southside Comprehensive Plan. The subject property is designated as industrial in this comprehensive plan, which dates back to 2007. Again, the trend of development has been towards industrial development, hence why in that image the purple is industrial, so you can see a lot of the industrial future planning there up to the east of Cherry Hill Road, and a lot of that has been developed recently. And the subject property is right on the cusp of urban communities and suburban communities with our land resource management plan, which is within the corner. So freestanding industry, which is what this parcel would be developed as, is generally discouraged in the suburban form unless it is higher quality or you're able to kind of buffer differing land uses. Whereas in the urban community form, it's encouraged, especially to reuse any sort of existing facilities. So here I have a concept plan. So each parcel is separate, but they are going to be developed jointly. That's where you have the separate zoning requests. So the subject of ZC 19007 actually shows, about an 83,000 square foot building and parking lot, whereas the subject of ZC 19008 is really just showing a portion of that driveway, so that's not yet to be developed, but you can see the detention pond that would accommodate both of those developments. Staff is recommending approval of the map amendment from A1 to I2 for each of those properties. Throughout the presentation, I went through some of that map amendment criteria, so this development does sufficiently meet that criteria, and therefore staff is recommending approval. We did receive, so here's that criteria again. We did receive some agency comments. The staff report outlined the comments that were received from various local and state agencies. Probably the most notable is from the City of Joliet, so they did provide plenty of comments related to development and really the potential for future annexation of that property. So they did give some suggestions to the developer to make future annexation more feasible for them. But that would at this time require annexation of multiple parcels in order for this parcel and the adjacent one to be contiguous. And then you also received a memo today. Our department received a letter of objection from the Joliet Township Highway Commissioner. So that was received today. The Highway Commissioner does outline some concerns on the long-term effect of the truck traffic on this road and the truck use and the impact it will have on this road. So that is outlined there. So I encourage the Commission to take some time to read through that letter. And then staff did not receive comments from either the Will County Health Department or the Joliet Township Fire Protection District. And that concludes staff's analysis.
Thank you. Is anyone any questions of staff?
I would venture one then. So, per the Highway Commissioner's concerns about truck traffic, I'm pretty sure that there's a lot of industry already on this road. Am I mistaken?
A lot of truck traffic already. Yes.
Yeah. So,
The recycling yard and
yeah,
a lot of trucks come off at Graves and turn and go this way to get to Cherry Hill and or Dollar.
It is way limited, they're not supposed to.
And there's, the majority of the road is unincorporated, and then as you get closer to Cherry Hill, it is incorporated. So the southwest corner of, if you're at the intersection of Cherry Hill and Lennox Road, there is an industrial development through the city of Joliet. So I would assume first part of that road is under the city of Joliet jurisdiction, but the majority of that is under the township. Absolutely. So there is some, just driving up and down the road, there's truck sales, I've noticed, there's obviously the recycling facility, and there's some contractors, so there's a number of industrial and commercial development, specifically on the north side of New Lennox Road, not necessarily on the south side. That's primarily residential.
And warehousing within a couple of blocks.
What was that?
Warehousing within a couple of blocks.
Correct.
So can you adequately answer, is the 12-ton weight limit all the way across that road, or is part of it that you said in the city of Joliet, a heavier weight limit, and then you get a point where boom, it just stops?
So that, yeah, that I can't speak to, I'm not sure.
I think it goes all the way across, but it says for local deliveries, and that's why that statement was made by the road commissioner. They'll clear this whole thing.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. I know the agent is here, and I presume the owners are here. Are there any objectors or concerned citizens to this case here? There are not, okay. Would you care to come down and speak to this? You do not have to, if you don't want to.
Well, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Mr. Mike Zambon is here, also Tom Carroll, our engineer. But we appreciate the staff's support, and you want me to come down? Okay.
If you're gonna speak what you're doing, might as well do it at the podium.
He'll get even with you on the golf course.
You're lucky I don't go.
My name is Richard Cavanaugh. I'm an attorney with offices at 111 North Ottawa Street here in Joliet. I represent MGZ New Lennox Road Properties LLC and SAC New Lennox Road Properties LLC on this case and the next case.
I guess the question would be, Mr. Kavanaugh, is what kind of truck traffic are we talking about generating here? I mean, what are they doing, some sort of dock work or?
We're not doing any kind of a truck terminal or anything like that. Basically, what we're contemplating is using this new parcel for the parcel immediately east, where the headquarters for West End Tool and Die is being constructed and is almost finished, almost ready for occupancy. The parcel to the west, which is the next case, we're not sure of yet.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I would request a motion on, we're going to have to do these separately, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we must request a motion on the first case, please. Or something.
Mr. Chairman, with regard to,
CC
I'm working on
19-007.
19-007, I'll make a motion for approval of map amendment from A1 to I2.
Do we have a second? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign? Okay, how would you do, Ollie? Of 008?
Mr. Chairman, with regard to case number ZC-19-008, I'll make a motion for approval of map amendment from A1 to I2.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign?
Pretty enthusiastic group tonight.
Okay. Thank you, you passed it.
You don't have to go back for
Yeah, there's not the typical.
How do you do it?
No, this will go to land use.
For the commission, am I the only one at the commission that's disturbed when they use the term vacant farmland? I prefer they just call it farmland.
Thank you.
It's not vacant.
No,
it's
and
just-
I don't get upset
Oh,
because the farmland, it doesn't have a
Nobody
BD
is
card.
farming it.
The next case,
No,
That's what
it-
that means, it's just dirt field.
the next case is CC-19-012. And it's going to be, it was prepared by Marguerite Kennedy and will be presented by Marguerite Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Zoning case ZC 19-012 is a variance request for a wireless telecommunication tower height from 200 feet to 310 feet. The owner and applicant is Mid-America Towers Incorporated, where Jay Canozzo is 100% stockholder and sole officer. The property is located at 1300 West New Money Road in Crete Township, and it is currently zoned A1, but has been used as a wireless telecommunication facility for many, many years, nearly 60 years. The wireless telecommunications facility, which includes a tower, support structures, equipment, things of that nature, has served the region through wireless telecommunication services, including radio, telephone, including the 911 emergency telephone system, internet and cellular services. And the existing tower basically met its end of life. It's been there for about 60 years, and the applicant is looking to replace this tower with a 310-foot new tower, and basically just transfer the users, the service area to this new tower. The locations of the support structures, equipment, things of that nature do meet the setbacks established for the wireless telecommunications facilities requirements, which are outlined in section 155-9.270 of the Will County zoning ordinance. One of those provisions requires that maximum height requirements be 200 feet for non-residential zoning districts, which is why the applicant tonight is requesting this variance. This variance request is a little bit different than the typical variance request you've heard at commissions. This specific type of variance has separate review criteria and application submittals, which you've received in your staff reports. The next two slides on the screen kind of show the different criteria that were used in kind of evaluating the site and what the development proposal was. This particular variance request will actually go to the full county board for final vote, so that's one of the differences. And also, just looking at the screen with the siting of the location, since it is zoned A1, it's been used as a wireless telecommunications facility. It fits that first criteria of being the most desirable location to keep its operation. The next slide just kind of goes over the criteria, but I do want to point out in the staff report in section 5 on page 4, the underlined statement should read as following. The following variation criterion is in compliance with section 155-16.70 M of the Will County zoning ordinance and 55 ILCS 5/5-12001.1. And staff pretty much evaluated the following proposal based on those criteria. Looking at the subject property, it is improved with a H-frame tower, which is two towers side by side connected by a single mast or a couple masts.
guide wires to support each tower, and then the support equipment on the ground. So you can see the images on the screen. On the bottom right is a Connect Explorer image of the existing tower. You can look by the zoning that there is commercial within the area and industrial uses. To the south in the village of Crete is the proposed CSX intermodal terminal, which has yet to be built but has been approved by the village. Looking at some aerials on the screen, you can see that it's kind of hard to see, but there is a 1 mile radius in red showing other towers within the region. Since this tower has been in kind of a rural setting for nearly 60 years, it's pretty much the only one within a mile. The zoning ordinance requires a half mile, or excuse me, a quarter mile to be within. So they are far exceeding that. There's a lot more spaced out service area for this. Modifications to this old, outdated tower are no longer feasible or, cost prohibitive. So they're looking to replace the tower with a new monopole tower. And staff finds that this constitutes a unique circumstance. Since it was an old, legal, non-conforming tower, they have to bring it into compliance, so it's treated as new construction. And by having the exact same tower height, 310 feet, they would be requiring a variance. The tower is going to keep the service and be allowed to even increase capacity in the future. On the screen is just the concept plan of what is proposed. On the left is the existing, and on the right-hand side of the screen is what's proposed with the new tower. Again, you can kind of see there's a lot more service and opportunity to increase service in the area. And then just looking kind of at the area surrounding the site, looking east and west along New Moni Road, and then looking at the adjacent properties on the north side of New Moni Road to the east and west. So staff did not receive any objections from the Will South Cook Soil and Water Conservation District, nor the Will County Health Department. The Federal Aviation Administration, or the FAA, determined that the new tower would not be considered a hazard to air travel, but recommended general safety practices should the tower have lighting go down or anything along those lines, just to keep it safe and the aircraft in the area safe. And that copy of those recommendations were included in your staff report. Staff also notified the Will County Division of Transportation and the Crete Township Fire Protection District, but received no comments. After the staff report was published, staff was advised by legal counsel to actually make a recommendation for this, besides just saying that it met the state of Illinois' criteria. Staff is recommending approval of the wireless telecommunications variance request, basically because there is a unique circumstance and that there is a public benefit to be sought increasing and replacing the tower. And that concludes staff's analysis.
If the tower was laid down, it won't hit watering or any other structure except their own building, correct?
It has, I believe, a 110-foot fall radius, which does go across property lines, but it should be outside any footprint of the buildings nearby.
Okay. Does anyone have any other questions for staff? No other questions? Thank you very much, everyone. I would,
Mr. Curley, welcome. Coming out with the sheet there.
like to hear a motion, please.
Make a motion for approval of a special use permit, case number ZC 19-015, for a special use permit on a premise, dynamic display and chamber function.
No, here, baby.
Well,
Right there, right there.
we'll have to-
Variance for wireless telecommunication tower height from 200 feet to 310 feet.
second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign? Okay, passes.
It's so easy to get lost.
Our next case, number ZC-19-015. Prepared by Janine Farrell. And presented by Janine Farrell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Zoning case ZC-19-015 takes place in Crete Township, and the applicant is the Crete Township Fire Protection District. There are 6 requests that are actually associated with this zoning case. So we have a special use permit for a dynamic display in the agricultural and residential zoning district. And we have 5 variances, which are for the dynamic display itself. So we have a variance for the dynamic display portion of the sign from 50% to 75%, variance for the setback from 2 different roadways, from Burrville to 5 feet and Exchange to 7 feet. Also the variance for the dynamic display sign face and where it is facing residential structures from 300 feet to 220 feet, and also for the height of the sign from 8 feet to 11 feet 11 inches. So I have a little mock-up on the screen here for you. We have the existing sign on the left, and you can see it is just a standard letterbox sign where they can change the message. And then what the applicant is proposing, the dynamic display. It's a black and white, sort of a grainy photo, but you can see it is basically the same sign, and they are just replacing the sign face itself with a dynamic display. Staff is recommending approval of that special use permit request for the dynamic display. Staff does not believe that it would be detrimental to the public's welfare or the health and safety of the neighboring residences. You were given in your packet the guidelines, the general guidelines for all dynamic displays in the county regarding the brightness, the dwell time, the animation. All of those guidelines are in there, regulations are in there to ensure that the drivers are not distracted or blinded by the lights. So staff believes that with the sign being in conformance with those, it will ensure the public's health and safety and welfare. Now the variance requests I'm going to walk you through one by one just so you understand what's being requested for this, since there are 5 of them. The first variance request is for the dynamic display portion of the sign from 50% to 75% of the total area of the sign. So this is the only variance request that staff is recommending denial of because it is not related to any sort of unique circumstance or hardship that is related to the parcel itself. The dynamic display is supposed to be only 50% of the total area of the sign. This sign is a little over 48 square feet, and the dynamic display portion is about 35.75 square feet or 75%. And you can see that where it says watch fire on the mock-up here, that's the dynamic display portion, and then that top portion with the Crete Township Fire Protection District is the static portion, the normal part of the sign, the non-dynamic display portion. The rest of the variance requests staff is recommending approval of, and I'll go into each one of these, but they are due to the unique configuration of the parcel itself, or due to the actual existing sign that's there, which was constructed, between 1995 and 1997. It was installed on the property, and it is legal non-conforming. So within our ordinance, you are allowed to make updates to a legal non-conforming sign, but something of this magnitude pushes it over the value that we allow for within the ordinance. Therefore, the entire sign needs to be brought into compliance. So this is the first variance request, and this is regarding the separation from the dynamic display sign face to adjacent residential structures. This is a recent change within our zoning ordinance. Previously, you were not allowed to even face residential zoning districts or uses. We had changed that. It was approved last month. And now the dynamic display is allowed to face residential structures, but has to be within a 300-foot radius. And as you can see from this image, we have a house that's right up here to the north that falls within that 300-foot radius. It's actually 220 feet from the dynamic display portion of the sign. Staff does not, again, staff is recommending approval of this variance request just due to the unique situation that we have here at hand with the fire protection district. Fire protection districts, police stations, they're typically located in those communities which they serve. So for this sign to be 220 feet from a residential structure, that's a challenge because the fire district is in a residential area to serve those residences. I have a view here for you, snowy days past, looking towards that residential structure, the A2 property, and you can see the roof line sort of just beyond that tree line over there.
That has screening in front of it, as I see.
It does, yes.
Thank you.
And then these are just some images of the sign, again, that's existing on the property. And you're looking in the other directions along Exchange and the other direction along Exchange looking west. You can see that it is a very rural area in the other directions. And this is the A1 parcel that's directly to the south there. For the setback requests for the variance, this is due to the triangular shape of the parcel itself. So we have here, these are the solid, heavier lines are the actual property lines itself, and we have the sign that's outlined, or I should say circled, in red on your screen there. So the sign is located the furthest distance from the intersection for safety reasons. And unfortunately, since it's a triangle, that places it in the narrowest portion of the triangle, the angled portion of it. So even if the sign was placed up in the other direction, variances would still be required for street setbacks. So for along Exchange Avenue we have there to the south, and then we also have for along Burrville. Now Burrville right here is actually unimproved, but it is not a vacated roadway. So it shows up on this plat of survey, it shows up in our GIS aerials. I've confirmed with the road commissioner that the street has not been formally vacated. The fire protection district uses it, and they use it as part of their parking lot. But unfortunately, it necessitates the need for a variance from that road, although it is unimproved. And the final variance is the request for the height. Again, the existing sign is just having the sign face replaced, so it's not increasing in height, it's staying the same height. So this is bringing that existing sign into compliance since it is legal, non-conforming. So as I mentioned, staff is recommending approval of the requests, the special use permit with one condition, which is just our standard condition, and 4 of the 5 variances. I did receive comments from the Creek Township Plan Commission, which were handed out to you today. So those are on your desk, and they did not have any objection to these requests, I should say. And I did not receive any objections from any of the other agencies that were notified as part of this. And that concludes staff's analysis.
Thank you. Is anyone any questions of staff?
Yes.
Go ahead, Michael.
First of all, say excuse me for being tardy.
Your excuse.
Business at hospice. Question for you, Nate. I see soil and water had no objection,
Correct.
and also natural resources.
Yes, and I should say the Will South Soil and Water Conservation District did not have any objection. They did reply, or they did give a letter for that. And then the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, they did not require an EcoCat as part of this. So no assessment of endangered species. The parcel is already developed. The site has been there since, the mid-19th.
Thank you.
Any other questions of staff?
Well, my only concern is the denial of the variance. And I know that you're doing it according to the book, but it's an existing sign that they turned into a digital. And of course, it looks entirely different to me. I don't know, my eyes say goofy, but why bother denying it?
Well-
Because of the black and white rule on it? Okay.
Yes, again, there's no unique circumstance, there's no
It's there.
hardship. A sign could have been designed that meets that 50% provision within the zoning ordinance.
I know, but you know the background of this, how they got this sign and the digital and everything. You know, it was more or less given to them.
And again, a sign could have been designed that that's, that 50%
Okay.
provision.
So to expand on that, it's a 48 square feet.
Total.
To be 50%, it'd have to be 24. Or in this case, they want 36 square feet of visual. So they could actually add 2 feet to the top of the sign and make the Creek Township Fire Protection District lettering bigger. But in essence, would make a bigger sign just to stay at 50%. So
Why bother?
we're going
We get to vote.
It's an
That's what this board is for.
We get to vote, that's
So
it.
yeah. No hard feelings.
They follow it according to the rules, we go on it.
And, yes,
So I shouldn't make them put it.
I just had to bring it up.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we got a bunch here.
Should I try again?
Is the agent for the fire
Oh,
district here?
fire district's here, I didn't even see them.
Yeah.
You're so little.
You saw it. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
I try to sit down a little bit.
We would have gotten that.
Thank you. My name is Jeff Panic. I'm the fire chief at the Creek Township Fire Protection District. The Whale County Planning and Zoning Commission staff recommends approval of 5 of the 6 variances involved in case ZC-19-15. I would like to concentrate on one variance not recommended approval by the staff. The staff recommends denial of the variance from the dynamic display portion of the sign from 50 to 75% of the total area of the sign. We are replacing a current sign with a sign as close in size as to the existing one. The ratio of lettering to logo is the same as the sign we currently have. LED boards come in certain sizes, and we created a replacement sign as close in as possible or within inches of our current sign. Creek Township has a total of 3 fire stations. Each fire station has a sign. Each sign has the same ratio to lettering to logo as the proposed sign. I would like all signs to have the same size and ratio to look the same. Every sign owned by Creek Township Fire District have 4 rows of 18 letters or spaces to get our message out. If the LED portion of the sign would be any smaller, I could not put the majority of our messages on the sign. Over 20 years ago, the sign was placed 400 feet from the intersection, and it's impossible to read while stopped at the red light. The posted speed limit on Exchange Street is 50 miles an hour. Most people drive well over 60. You have very little time to see the sign, let alone read if it is even smaller. If we go any smaller with the LED portion of the sign, I would have to break up our messages into 2 or 3 messages. The problem that occurs with the 2 messages is that the current Will County ordinance mandates a dwell time of a minimum of 10 seconds. In other words, it comes up for 10 seconds, minimum, and that's an ordinance. It goes down for a second and comes up. With a mandated dwell time of 10 seconds, the vehicles could be miles down the road before you could read the second portion of the message. Furthermore, the ordinance states I cannot have any movement, animation, or any special effects. Go 1 mile to the east of Creek Township Fire Station 2. 30 feet into Indiana is a 30 by 20 LED sign, 100% LED. I understand the ordinance or laws in Indiana are different. However, I can see the glow of the sign from our station number 2. Talk about light pollution. We are not advertising to sell gasoline. We're not selling appliances. We are promoting safety. We're promoting CPR classes. We are recruiting neighbors to become firefighters. For these and many other reasons, I would encourage the Will County Planning and Zoning Commission to vote in favor of allowing the LED portion of the sign to be 75 and not 50%. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Very well done. Very well done.
Thank you, sir, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anyone have any questions?
You got a yes vote.
Are there any objectors or concerned citizens to this case? Okay. I'll entertain a motion for,
Okay, there you go.
So we're gonna start the first one.
Case number ZC-19-015. Motion for approval of a special use permit for an on-premise dynamic display in agricultural and residential zoning districts with one condition.
Second.
motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Okay.
For the same case, a variance for dynamic display portion of the sign from 50% to 75% of the total area of the sign.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign.
Also the same case, approval of a variance for minimum setback of a dynamic display sign face from a residential structure from 300 feet to 220 feet, east sign face.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign.
Same case, variance, approval of a variance for minimum setback from a street right-of-way for a freestanding sign from 10 feet to 7 feet, Exchange Street.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign.
Same case again, approval of a variance for minimum setback from a street right-of-way for a freestanding sign from 10 feet to 5 feet, east Birdville Road.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign.
And finally, the same case, approval of a variance for maximum height of a freestanding sign from 8 feet to 11 feet, 11 inches.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Okay.
There it is. Good. There
Yeah,
you
start
go.
right.
Very well. Very well. Okay, you start on that, and I'll start on this. Don't let him go. I know.
The next case, the last case tonight is ZC-19-016, prepared by Marguerite Kenny and presented by Marguerite Kenny.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you need a minute, I can give you a minute. Process paperwork?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can sing.
Inner flag here.
What do you think, Michael?
I said she'd take this with me. Thank you. Thank you, sir. It's important that it gets in the hands of the
I
secretary.
had faith in this stuff, so I didn't ask.
Oh, he's sorry.
Sorry, man. You don't- Okay, not yet.
Maybe in the future, we will take the Jeopardy check. Just kill the dead.
Yes. How's it go? How'd you do it?
Is the guy still winning?
Probably.
I could sing, but we only have one security officer here. I'm afraid that if I started singing, he'd need more to get me out of here alive.
I've heard you sing.
No windows, no, it's raining outside.
Should let you sit down if you want. You want to take a seat? She's not going to go ahead.
No, I'm almost done.
I know.
This one got Ran on the line.
Good night, thank you.
Just keep silent.
Sorry for the delay, gentlemen. We just,
Okay, we can go. Recess is cut.
would you go ahead and start that, Marguerite?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Zoning case ZC 19-016 is the same owners as the previous ZC 19-007 and 008. The owner is the West End Tool and Die Incorporated, where Michael Zambon is a 40% shareholder, John Zambon is 45%, and Robert Lipka is an officer. Tonight representing the owners is Mr. Richard Kavanaugh, their attorney. The property is located at 2253 New Lenox Road in Joliet Township. This is the property that was to the east that was already zoned I-2, and as Ms. Gal mentioned, that you made the map amendment request last January. The applicant would like to construct a 22 by 3 foot sign in a visible location along New Lenox Road in order to identify the business and meet county requirements. In doing so, they are requesting a variance for the minimum setback of a freestanding sign from the back of a curve of a driveway from 10 feet to 4 feet. So on the screen, you can see it's an old aerial, but the images on the right-hand side show that a building has been constructed on the site. The property has been developed within the last year. It is approved with a 48,000 square foot building, a parking lot in the front, and has detention in the back of the property. The site was developed without any kind of ideas of having a freestanding sign in the front of the property, which has caused, the need for a variance tonight. The applicant submitted development plans that were approved by land use staff, the health department, the road authority back last year that required landscaping requirements along the road frontage, so along New Lenox Road, along the landscaping, the parking lot islands, and also for general landscaping, which would require 15% of the developed site to be landscaped. The landscaping plan was submitted by land use staff, or was submitted to land use staff, and was approved. So they installed landscaping. Since then, they've decided they would like to have a freestanding sign, and the proposed location is actually on the top right, that landscape island, which is in alignment with the building. Looking at the zoning and kind of the site concept plan of the sign proposed, the property is zoned I-2. There is to the south that R1 property that you saw in the previous zoning cases, as well as what you recommend approval for the two properties to the west, being I-2 tonight. There needs to be some type of screening, which is the road frontage landscaping requirement to kind of break up the industrial nature of the site with the residences to the south, as well as just kind of give it a nice aesthetic look. However, based on the concept plan, this landscaping island here is unable to site a freestanding sign due to vision clearances, as well as the required landscaping required of the road frontage. The proposed site also actually impacts the landscaping plan, and the applicant will need to submit modification plans for the landscaping to kind of encompass this sign, the required freestanding sign landscaping requirements, as well as what was going to go there. The proposed site is 4 feet off the back of the curb of that landscape island, which for provision in the zoning ordinance that states freestanding signs need to be set back off curbs of landscape islands and basically from drive aisles, a minimum of 10 feet. And this sign, it's going to 4 feet, so it's encroaching 6 feet. And here's just looking at the site plans. On the left-hand side is what was proposed for the landscaping. On the left-hand side is kind of the applicant's proposed modifications. So the provisions for a freestanding sign require at least the amount of the sign, so it's 22 by 3, so they would require 66 square feet of landscaping to be added to this island, and that's kind of what they're proposing. But again, these plans have not been approved by land use staff, and in order for anything to be allowed to get, the permits issued, they would have to be approved. Just looking at the general location of the site, you can look at the proposed island. This is from New Lenox Road, so this is from the street. You can kind of see where that proposed area right here is outside the obstruction of the cars, the parking lot. This is looking north and south from the subject site along the Lenox Road. And this is looking to the east as well as to the south of the subject property, so towards that recycling plant that's adjacent, as well as the residential that is currently being farmed. So staff is recommending denial of the variance for the minimum setback of a freestanding sign from the back of the curb to a driveway from 10 feet to 4 feet because staff did not find a unique circumstance. It is unfortunate that the freestanding sign was not thought of in the initial development plans. However, that does not constitute a unique circumstance to request a variance per the zoning ordinance. Staff did not receive any objections from the Little South Cook Soil Water Conservation District nor the East Joliet Fire Protection District. Staff also notified the Health Department and the Joliet Township Highway Commissioner and received no comments regarding the signs variance. And that concludes staff's analysis.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions of staff?
I have one. Did you offer alternative or suggestions on the signage?
Yes, there are options. He could do either a wall sign on the building itself or construct a smaller freestanding sign that would meet setbacks. However, the applicant chose to proceed with this variance request.
Well, I think it looks like it's about 30 or 40 feet back off the street. If you go too small, you're not going to see it.
Right. And it's not obstructing anything.
It's so far back, I don't know what to do.
Well, according to the staff analysis, there is a paragraph that says if the variance is granted, it will not essentially, alter the character of the area, et cetera, et cetera. So we can use.
He has a truck is on his own property. It's actually out by the street.
You've got a good point. You've got a good point there. So common sense will tell us to vote accordingly.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion.
Oh,
Okay, go ahead.
You gotta make sure there's no.
No objections.
Is there any other questions of staff? Thank you.
I tried that a month ago.
Now,
Put the motion out there too quick.
I see the team is here, but do we have any
The team?
objections to this case?
Oh.
Yeah.
oh, there's a team.
Team, right?
Whoa,
With Mr. Kavanaugh as the chief.
He's coming automatically. You
The
don't
general.
ask him a question.
the general, I don't know my army. That helpers, the staff sergeants or something.
But the question I asked, there is no objectors as I can see. And no one has spoken up, so.
Okay.
My name is Richard Kavanaugh. I'm an attorney with offices at 111 North Ottawa Street in Joliet, and I represent West End Tool and Die, which is the owner of this property. If we could go back and simply take a look at the sign itself. That's good. That's fine. Yeah. And this is the sign. This is not a big billboard display.
This is not the huge name of the company on the building or anything like that. It's a very low-key West End Tool and Die with the address on New Lenox Road, and that's it. And the curb that we're talking about is the curb for basically the parking area right here, that distance. We're not talking about a sign along the street where you might be concerned if it's too close to the street. And the staff, as I think I heard one member indicate, says, staff finds the variance if granted will not alter the essential character of the locality. The purpose of the variance request is not based exclusively upon a desire to make more money out of the property. Staff's professional opinion, granting the variance will not be detrimental to public welfare, etc. So Mr. Zambon has this kind of a sign at his facility in New Lenox. And basically he liked what he had in New Lenox. He wanted to put it here. We're asking you to approve the variance.
Does anyone have any questions of Mr. Kemp?
No. Thanks for the presentation.
Thank you, folks.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for case number, approval for case number ZC-19-016, a variance for the minimum setback of a freestanding sign from the back of the curb of the driveway from 10 feet to 4 feet.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. The variance is granted.
Okay, you've got this to sign.
You see that?
Are there any announcements from staff?
A meeting, we have a second meeting this month, the 21st.
21st?
I was asking for our next meeting will be held on May 23rd, 2019. This same location at 6:30.
21st, 23rd.
21st.
21st, pardon me.
Two Tuesdays
Looking
from
with
now.
bad eyes. May 21st.
I can't give you mine, they're probably going to sit here with
And
tonight.
as soon as we sign this,
Motion
I'll
to
take a
adjourn.
motion to adjourn. So I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Don't leave it until you sign the paper. Thank you, Jack, for once again doing a very professional job.
Isn't it neat? I should still like that. All right.